Hello and welcome to the Veterans Corner. My name's Chuck Woodin. I'm joined by my co-host, Kat Zickwolf. How many times we've done this?
Too many.
We've got a special show for you today. It's a topic we've never discussed before. And I assure you that it's going to be a very interesting show. When that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Kat. Please have the honors and of introducing the guest. And you'll find out why Kat's going to be introducing.
Good evening, everybody. So I've been booking a lot of guests, especially most of them for the last season. And summer's real tough to get people to come in here. And I got to thinking, I've listened to my dad's stories my whole life. And I realized we have not done a segment on the Merchant Marine. And a lot of people have never heard of it, don't know what they do. And basically, they are the truckers of the sea. They get all of your goods from one place to another. And with the unique distinction from truckers is that Uncle Sam can take their whole ship and crew at will to serve the needs of the military. So I decided to see if my dad would come in and consolidate his stories into a 20-minute segment and tell us a little bit about the Merchant Marines and his experience in it. So with no further ado, this is my dad, Herb Zickwolf.
Hi, good evening, folks. Just to give you a little beginning, after high school, I joined the Navy. And then after I joined the Navy, I ended up going to the Merchant Marine Academy. And then after that, after I went to Pratt & Whitney Aircraft and worked there as an engineer. And then after I got through that, I went to school and got my firefighting certificate and became a volunteer fireman. So that's the short part of what I did. So I lived several different lives and I enjoyed every one of them.
And then your warranty on your body ran out at 78. So here we are, right when COVID hit. So now he's a full-fledged retiree.
Now, he had the honor of working with you, right?
Yeah, so I was a firefighter
station?
and I'm like, Dad, I knew him being home and retired with my mom with nothing to do all day, I would hear never the end of it. I had to get it in both ears. So I'm like, Dad, come on down. They got the coolest toys. We cut up stuff. We drive big trucks. You'll love it. And he drove the tanker, 70,000 pounds, until he was 79 years old. He was chainsaw slinging, and we're driving a six-wheeler and cutting a fire line, saving houses, and all kinds of good stuff. And then cancer and bypass and old age.
Yeah. The key is to keep active.
Yeah, healthy living.
Now, Herb, you joined the Navy right out of high school.
Yes, my father and I had different ideas of what my future was, and he didn't think I was going to be much of anybody, so I came up and joined the Navy 4 days after I graduated from high school. Then I went out to Great Lakes Naval Training Center.
Waukegan, Illinois.
And during the beginning of, I was supposed to go to electronics school and then nuclear power school. But during the beginning, when you're going to boot camp, they have a thing called duty week. And that means you spend 1 week either in the galley washing pots and pans, or you get out on the field. And I was part of the
Strategic Lawnmower Command is how he tells it.
So it was hot and it was humid, and there just happened to be a notice put up and says there was going to be a test for something, and I didn't remember what the test was for, and I didn't really care, but it was 3 days in an air-conditioned room, and that seemed to be much better than riding a Briggs & Stratton and on a field. So I took the test. Later I found out the test was to go to Annapolis, and I passed the test. So I ended up going to the Naval Academy. Then after being at the Naval Academy, there's two things I found out. One, as a student at the Naval Academy, you're more a manager. You know some engineering so that somebody doesn't pull the wool over your eyes when you're trying to help them out, but you're really a manager. And then the second thing is that I was really an engineer, and engineering is the field I really wanted to get in. And then I flunked out on some of the management courses, and I was going to have to do the whole thing all over again. So I had found out about the Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point, and some of the people that I had taken the test with knew about Kings Point, and it was a very good engineering school.
It's one of the best in the country at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was number 17 right after Mass in MIT and Cal Poly. So I applied for the Merchant Marine Academy. Then at that point, I needed a congressional appointment. And one of the things I found out when I left the Naval Academy, I was able to hitchhike down to Washington, D.C. and see my congressman. And he said that there was, I think it was 75 applicants for 5 openings.
For Connecticut.
From Connecticut.
Each state has a quota, so he was like, oh wow, I got to get in line for that one.
So while I was there, it just happened that there was a rather attractive lady there who was a secretary, and we had a date. And somehow she managed to find out that Michigan hadn't filled their quota.
Like ever. In many years anyway.
So I went, next time I went down there, and I put my best blues on and shined my shoes and all that. And I asked the card there, where's the Michigan congresswoman? And so I went down there and walked in and said, can I talk to the congresswoman? And they came back and said, yeah, sure. So I went in, talked to her, told her who I was, where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And finally she said, well, where in Michigan do you live? I said, well, kind of the Connecticut part. At which point she looked at me, why are you here? And I said, well, you've never filled your quota. You've never had an appointment. And I would really like that appointment. And I can understand if one of your people from Michigan wants to go, by all means, that would be the thing you would do. But if you don't have anybody, I really would like to get that appointment.
Well, and what civilians may not know is when you're active duty, you can claim any state in the union as your home of address. So he could legitimately claim Michigan without committing fraud.
So I said, well, I could give you a Christmas card, something like that. So she said, well, let me think about it. And a little while later, I got my appointment to Kings Point. And I don't know, did I get it from Connecticut? Did I get it from Michigan? Nobody ever told me, but I took it.
You got it.
I got it. And so then I left the Navy and I went to Kings Point. Then I ran into a little problem because I had been a little over 2 years in the Navy, active service, but I had reserve requirements to do. And so I called the New York Naval headquarters and say, what can I do? Because I'm a plebe at the Merchant Marine Academy, and we're not allowed to leave the premises until Christmas. So I can't go to that one meeting a month and 2 weeks a year because I'm at the academy. And they said, well, you're learning a lot more there than you would here. So they forego all my reserve requirements. Yeah.
And that was the right place for him because we both have Asperger's, and so we have his unique skill set is math. So he ended up taking 21 and 24 credits of advanced math per semester. So a lot of people can't handle one course, and he's taking 24 credits. He had to get the dean to sign off, but he crushed it. So. It all worked out.
It all worked out, and I enjoyed it. And you can take a lot more credits than you would think because you are not allowed to go off the campus during the week.
No life.
And there's no social life during the time, so you can study a lot, and there's nothing else to do but crank through the courses.
And then you spent a lot of time at sea. So what was your job? Where did you go?
I went to Europe, Northern Europe, and that included communist Poland. We took a ship over there, and we had 175 cars on it. They were from the military guys who were in Europe. You could bring your own car over there, and the government would pay to have it shipped over there. The good thing about that is the guys would go over there, buy a car that didn't cost too much, and when they got through, they'd sell it and get more money for the car over there than they paid for it when it was in the U.S.
Seen it.
So the next thing we did is we loaded up one of the holds. We had 7 holds in that ship, and we took 50 Sherman tanks in that one hold. So you can see that that ship can carry a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, bringing them back to archive because Europe we weren't using them anymore.
They weren't fighting anymore.
Yeah, between engagements.
Right. So.
Then your job down in the as an engineer, that was the old days where you actually had to work the engine. So some of your job description you were telling out in the lobby, this throwing levers and
yeah, turning the throttle through, and they had 3 boilers in there. So I had 2 boiler workers putting in the nozzles, and then once they get going, you'd have to pull the nozzles out, put bigger nozzles in, and then if you stopped, you had to shut some nozzles off, and you had to. There was a whole bunch of activity going on in the engine room. It was done by a couple of jump ropes that went from the engine room to the bridge, and the bridge had that one of those big levers. You pull it back and you slow ahead, fast ahead, and all that. That would make the little arrow go back and forth downstairs.
Very analog.
And then we took our lever and we pushed it to the same place, and that made the bridge say, "Oh, those guys are awake and they can do the job and they can give me more power."
Jing, jing. And you see it when they need to get your attention. Jing, 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 jing on the movies. They wake them up downstairs.
So we had about 55 people on the ship, engineers and deck people on the ships.
And then you got once you graduated, you got the contract with Chiquita Banana.
Yeah, but while I was doing this, I also went to the west coast of Africa, and went down to see several countries down there. And one of them, we had a big oil truck on the deck, and I was wondering, what are we going to do? So we got to this country called Togo, and Lomé is the capital, and it was too shallow to get in there. And lo and behold, they brought out a rowboat, a big rowboat, and we took a crane and we put the truck. It was a tandem axle oil truck.
Oh my God.
Put it in their rowboat, and the 8 guys in the rowboat rowed about 2 miles back to the capital.
It must have been jacked.
I was gonna say, how long did that take them?
A long time, a few hours.
Yeah.
But it's hard to imagine how primitive these countries are.
Made you really grateful for what the U.S. has to offer.
Yeah. And then we went down to Monrovia, Liberia, and we had a...
We'll get that one if we have time at the end. So let me get you back on the...
then we went to Asia and Japan and all the countries around there. And then I made one trip around the world to get through the Mediterranean, and then finished up my school. And then after school, I guess we were still in
Yeah, that's where you went to Chiquita.
Yeah, I worked for Chiquita Banana. United Fruit was there, and they said, if you want to go, if you like fruit, go United. And I would go from New York down through the canal, pick up bananas in Honduras, and then go to LA and San Francisco, and then come back through the canal and pick up bananas. So you signed up for a year contract to go to Central America, and from there to where the master says. And I didn't think anything about that, and we made several trips. And then all of a sudden, it turns out we got to San Francisco, and Uncle Sam says, "We want you." And that meant the ship and everybody on it. And so they load us up with 10,000 tons of beef and 400 tons of ice cream.
Wow.
And sent us to Vietnam
So we're going
as
to
a floating refrigerator.
So yeah, so we were looking up. So Chuck was Navy, so he knows what you guys
Yeah, we were
do.
looking at some of the stats. Something most people don't realize is that the military runs the Merchant Marines.
The other way around. Merchant Marine runs the or gets them there.
Yeah, but they bring over 90% of the military goods and supplies to and from war zones, including refueling. I remember that very well.
Yeah.
Refueling out at sea, underway replenishment we called it.
Yep.
The big tanker would pull up alongside of us, and they
Top us off.
we interacted with the Merchant Marines all the time.
Yeah.
We had to.
Yeah, they what I was looking up some stats, and during World War II, there were over 250,000 merchant mariners on over 5,000 ships, and 7,000 of them died in line of duty. So that's the highest percentage beyond any branch in the military. And they had 300 ships at the D-Day invasion, and in Vietnam they had 300 ships with 3,000 guys, and 50 of them perished there. But we'll skip through. Yeah. Other than saying you were parked next to a destroyer and under their protection in Cambran Bay and at the airport, we're down to about the 7-minute mark. So we'll do the shorter version. But you can give what it was like being there for a minute, and then we'll go on to what the Merchant Marine needs to see in the future.
Well, I can say that I witnessed action. I can't say that I saw action. That implies that I had a gun and shooting at people, but we did see the destroyer firing off 5-inch rounds into the woods, and they saw the Huey copters. You could see the tracers at nighttime sometimes. And Da Nang had the runway right at the end of where our ship was, so we got to see that all the time.
And then, according to the DOT, I'm sorry, I'm stepping on Chuck's line.
Well, yeah, it was. Well, I mean, if you want to.
Sure. So, according to the DOT.gov, there's only 178 merchant cargo ships in service today. Now, if I looked up China, they had 5,500. We have 178. So we were asking you why such low numbers?
When the war was over, of course, the United States was strong and the rest of the world was kind of weak. We could not compete with the cost of the people working on the ships. The Americans' salaries were much bigger, and other countries could make cheaper ships. And so the Chinese and what have you now could make cheaper ships, and so our business went out of business. The only thing that saved us a bit is this thing called the Jones Act, and that's where all
U.S. in-country and within territories
has to be done on American flagships. So the federal government stopped the extra money that they were paying the merchant ships, except for the ones that go around the United States and territories. So we couldn't compete anymore. Now, I don't know if a war comes along and they have to have a bunch of ships go around the world, then our coast, where are we going to get oil from the south, Louisiana and what have you, get it up to New York? Those ships would be deployed. And I don't know, maybe we could ask the Chinese if they would loan us some ships. At the time, they might be reluctant.
Yeah, most of our biggest cities are port cities.
Yes.
You've got in Texas, you've got in Florida, you've got in Virginia,
Diego,
New York, and LA, San Francisco, and all of that would come to a screeching halt without shipping.
A lot of the refineries are all down on the golf course.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you have to
Well,
make
I
those.
did a tank. Worked on a tanker from Pascagoula, Mississippi to Staten Island. So I know that ship probably would end up going to who knows where if some fighting broke out somewhere.
We used to see the tankers all the time.
Yeah,
When I spent time in the Persian Gulf, when Iran and Iraq were fighting, going through the Straits of Hormuz, you can always see the ones that were filled, and people don't realize the draft. They run deep.
yeah.
Because when they're empty, I mean, they're just sitting
Floating way up there.
way up out of the water.
Well, and one of the things he was mentioning is that those 50 tanks, Sherman tanks, filled one of 7 holds. So that ship can take 350 tanks across the ocean, whereas a C-17 cargo plane can carry 1. 2 if you strip them down, but then you got to put the parts somewhere. So you get 1. So we need major mobility in the event of a big engagement.
So some of my classmates are working on it, on congressmen, and trying to rough them up and tell them we need more ships. But it seems that there's a attitude that we're going to save a bunch of money, because if you look at your iPad, it's probably made in China.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's a mentality that says
Japan.
we go to the cheapest bidder, and working with the United States people, the cost is expensive. Making it in the United States, that cost is expensive. You're going to have to pay something more to have an American fleet.
Yeah, and you're saying they were working to build or maintain or sustain shipyards that build merchant ships, because we don't really do that much anymore. We build a lot of recreational stuff because we want to keep it in-house, but most of the big ships are built anywhere else but here. And so we got to make sure that keeps going. But like you said, it's an uphill battle.
One of the questions that we were going to ask, I think we started to cover, or most of it, what problems does the shrinking merchant fleet present for national security? And we've touched a lot on that.
Yeah.
It presents a major
vulnerability. Yeah.
with national security.
Do we give up our economy or our security? We have to pick right now.
All for the sake of a couple dollars.
Well, one of the other things is just trying to get people who want to sail on the ships. Right now, there's a shortage of merchant mariners, because you used to spend like 5 days in New York loading up the ship.
Yeah.
So you could have fun there, and you could go to other countries and go around and see a lot of things that was going on. But now, with the Connex containers, you can take like 2 weeks to go from the West Coast to Australia, unload in 6 to 10 hours, and be on your way back to the United States.
It's not
You
fun
can't
anymore.
even get a haircut. Where in the old days, it used to be 6 or 7 days over there. And you could go around and have fun, enjoy life. Nobody wants it, but the money is good. But
I actually almost did it when I got out of the Navy. Came back to Connecticut and never went back. We've only got about a minute and a half left, if that. You were starting to tell a story. Do you have a quick story?
Oh yeah, when we were in Monrovia, Liberia, that's where the rubber comes from. Firestone has a big rubber plantation, and they bring these square chunks of rubber that are 208 pounds. And there was a big cargo net lifting up a bunch of it. And all of a sudden the net let go, and several of these things came bouncing down. And it was interesting to see them bouncing all over the deck.
Rubber.
And it was also interesting to see the natives who were there packing them jump over the side of the ship, because
Just to get out of the way.
just to get out of the way, because they're square, and which way are they going to land? It's worse than a football.
Yeah.
And that was
Unpredictable.
unpredictable. So that was kind of interesting to see.
Oh, we got about 30 seconds. Herb, it was an absolute pleasure. This is something, we've been doing this for over 300 episodes, and this is one topic we have not had before. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it seems like you don't hear about it.
Well, very few people or even know what the Merchant Marines are.
That's right.
And we here at the Veterans Corner hope that we educated you on that. One thing we forgot to do in the beginning was thank you for your service.
Oh.
On behalf of the viewers, the Veterans Corner crew, we want to thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
For everything
It was
you've done.
my pleasure.
With that being said, that's all the time we have. I want to thank the viewers for watching. Till the next time on the Veterans Corner. Good night.
Nick Augustino right here at the East Side Restaurant. We always have the complete full dinner menu. Knockwurst, bratwurst, sauerbraten, potato pancakes, red cabbage, rice pudding, cream pies, all the desserts that Germany had to offer. I always do something different. Yes, I do. I brought seafood to the beer garden at the East Side Restaurant. East Side Restaurant, your German destination restaurant in Connecticut. Tiki-taka, hoy, hoy, hoy!